If you've got a solar panel on your roof, then there's a good chance you're making a simple mistake that is killing your energy gains. Right now, somewhere between 70 and 80% of solar owners are making the exact same error, and it's costing them hundreds of dollars every single year. But the strange thing is, you probably wouldn't notice the problem just by looking at the panels. So stick around, because today I'm going to share the single biggest mistake the vast majority of households make when it comes to solar, and how, with just half an hour of effort, you could boost your panel's output by as much as 25%. But before we get to the fix, we first need to understand the problem that's quietly wreaking havoc on your solar panels. And to do that, you have to understand what a solar panel actually is. At its core, it's a light harvesting machine. When a particle of light strikes the silicon cell underneath the glass, it knocks an electron loose. And that movement is the electricity that powers your home. It's elegant, it's silent, and it has no moving parts. But it depends on one thing above all else, and that's a clear path between the sun and the silicon. And that's where the problem begins. Because your panels don't sit in a sealed box. They sit outside day and night, exposed to everything the sky throws at them. Over time, a fine layer of dust, pollen, sap, and bird droppings settles onto the glass. We tend to treat our panels like a television or a computer, a piece of maintenance-free hardware we install once and forget. But they're far closer to your car, a machine that's left out in the open and collects grime and dust over time. And every micro layer of that grime acts as a physical filter, blocking the light before it ever reaches the cell beneath. At first, this just looks like a gradual dimming, but it gets worse because of the way panels are built. Inside a panel, the cells are wired together in strings, and they're only as strong as their weakest link. When one section gets covered by a patch of grime or a dried clump of bird waste, that cell stops producing power and starts resisting it instead. Electrical resistance in that spot skyrockets, and the covered cell turns into a tiny heater. These are called hot spots, and they are where dirt stops being a cosmetic issue and becomes a threat to your hardware. Because that localized heat doesn't just lower today's output, it puts the panel under thermal stress. Every panel has bypass diodes built into the junction box, little safety valves designed to route current around a shaded cell. But they were never meant to fire constantly. When grime forces them to activate over and over under heat, they begin to fail. And once a diode dies, it can take a whole section of your panel with it. On top of that, the endless cycle of heating and cooling causes physical damage to the panel itself. Micro cracks in the silicon, delamination of the layers, even burn marks on the surface. What started as a bit of dust ends up shortening the life of a system you paid thousands of dollars for. And this isn't just a long-term threat to the panel's longevity. Long before any of that permanent damage sets in, dirt is hitting you where it hurts most, in performance. And the numbers here are staggering. Research from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory shows that annual losses from soiling in the United States typically sit somewhere between 0 and 6%. That might not sound like much, but it's an average, and averages hide the extremes. In areas with a lot of particles in the air, like industrial zones or dry, dusty climates, that figure climbs to anywhere from 15 to 25% of your total output. And in the worst cases, after a heavy dust storm, panels have been recorded losing as much as 80% of their power until they were cleaned. And this isn't some quirk of the American climate. It's a problem playing out everywhere on the planet, and the international data makes that crystal clear. In Al-Sib, Oman, a 2-week study found that uncleaned panels lost almost 19% of their power compared to panels that were cleaned every day. In Kuwait, researchers measured soiling losses of nearly 46% over just 3 months without cleaning, while Qatar's energy yield dropped 15% after a single month of operation. And in Saudi Arabia, studies recorded efficiency falling by over 33% after 1 month and nearly 66% after 6. That's a panel losing 2, or 3 of its power. Not to a fault, not to a breakdown, but simply to dirt that nobody wiped off. Now, here's the good news. The moment you become aware of this problem and start doing something about it, the improvement is immediate. This isn't a slow recovery or a long-term play. Research shows that panels neglected for months can see their output jump straight back up by 5 to 15% the moment they're properly cleaned. You wash the glass, and the power comes back the same day. And to understand why that matters, you have to think about what that lost power actually represents. Every single watt your panels fail to produce is a watt you are forced to buy back from your utility provider at full retail price. That lost energy is a direct ongoing drain on your wallet. Say you spend $100 a year on the gear to clean your panels properly. And in doing so, you recover $300 worth of energy you would otherwise have had to buy. That's a 200% return on your maintenance spend. There aren't many places you can put $100 and triple it, but a clean solar panel is one of them. And in a world where utility rates seem to do nothing but climb, this is one of the few hedges you actually control. But the financial damage goes deeper than your monthly bill. Every dollar of energy you lose also pushes back the day your panels finally pay for themselves. You bought the system as an investment with a payback period in mind. And if it's been quietly running at 80% for years, that payback isn't where you think it is. The investment you were so pleased with may not have been nearly as good as the salesman promised purely because nobody told you the glass needed cleaning. And that brings us to the most important part of this video. How do you actually fix this? Before you touch a thing, we need to be honest about the risks, both to you and to your panels. The first is obvious. Climbing onto a pitched roof is a genuinely dangerous activity, and it's a safety tax most homeowners simply aren't equipped to pay. The second risk is to the hardware itself. Reach for the wrong tools, and you can do more harm than the dirt ever would. A standard pressure washer or a stiff household brush can leave microscopic scratches across the anti-reflective coating on the glass. Those scratches scatter light permanently, so you end up in a self-defeating cycle, damaging the very surface you're trying to clean. And worse still, that kind of damage can void your warranty and make your performance guarantees worthless. Then there's the water itself, which almost everyone gets wrong. Ordinary tap water is full of minerals like calcium and magnesium. Spray it on a hot panel. The water evaporates, and those minerals are left behind as cloudy, chalky streaks. And those streaks become their own little semi-permanent barriers to sunlight. That's why professionals use deionized water. Water with the minerals stripped out so the glass dries completely clear with zero residue. So how do you actually solve all of this and keep your panels pristine? Well, you've got 4 real options, and I want to walk you through every single one of them in detail, because most people rush into solar panel cleaning without actually understanding what they're doing. And that one mistake quietly costs them thousands over the life of their system. So let's slow down and do this properly. The first is the budget-friendly reach and rinse approach, and for most people, it's all they'll ever need. You buy a multi-stage telescopic pole with a soft, bristled brush on the end. This lets you safely wash your panels from the ground rather than the roof. And that matters more than people realize. Every time someone climbs onto a roof without proper training or equipment, they're taking on real risk. Falls from roofs account for a significant number of home injury incidents every year. So staying on the ground isn't laziness. It's actually the smarter and safer call. The crucial part of this method is fitting a portable inline deionizing filter. This strips out the calcium and magnesium before the water hits the glass. Now, why does that matter? Because tap water, even water that looks perfectly clean, contains dissolved minerals. When that water evaporates off your panel surface, those minerals don't evaporate with it. They stay behind. And what you're left with is a fine white residue that builds up layer by layer over time. It doesn't just look bad, it actively blocks light from reaching the photovoltaic cells beneath. The deionizing filter removes those minerals before they ever get a chance to settle. So your rinse water leaves the panel genuinely clean rather than just wet. For the average suburban home, this is the most cost-effective path there is. A decent telescopic pole will run you somewhere between $30 and $80. A good inline filter is another $20 to $50. And you're set up for years of effective cleaning for well under $100 total. Compare that to the energy you recover, and the maths aren't even close. The second option is what I'd call the efficiency tier. A permanent overhead rinsing system you can build from parts at your local hardware store. The idea is simple. You route UV-resistant tubing along the top edge of your panels. You hold it in place with cable mounts, and you fit it with adjustable sprayer heads, exactly like the micro-irrigation systems people use to water their plants. The goal is a uniform curtain of water that washes the dirt off for you. Now here's what makes this approach genuinely clever. Dust and particulate matter don't bond to glass. They sit on it. A slow, even flow of filtered water is enough to lift that layer and carry it away. You don't need pressure. You don't need scrubbing. You just need consistency. The beauty of this system is convenience. You can run it manually by connecting the tube to a tap with a filter, or you can fully automate it with a simple timer switch. Set it to run at 3 in the morning and you'll never think about it again. But if you build one of these systems, you must follow 2 non-negotiable rules. First, complete electrical separation. Never attach water tubing to your PV wiring or conduits, not near them, not across them, not at any point. The water system has to stay entirely independent of anything electrical. Water and high voltage DC current are a combination that has seriously injured and killed people. This isn't a guideline, it's a hard boundary. If you're not confident about where your wiring runs, get a licensed installer to mark it out before you do anything else. And second, always be cautious of thermal shock. Only ever run the system in the cool hours, pre-dawn or after sunset. Here's the physics behind it. A solar panel that's been sitting in full sun on a hot day can reach surface temperatures of 60, 70, even 80 degrees Celsius. The tempered glass is designed to handle that heat while it's stable. What it is not designed to handle is a sudden rapid drop in temperature. When you spray cold water onto superheated glass, you create an instant thermal gradient across the surface. The outer layer contracts faster than the inner layer can follow, and that stress can crack the glass outright. A cracked panel doesn't just underperform, it's a safety hazard and a warranty void in one, so cool hours only, no exceptions. The third option is to go fully automated with robotics. This is where things get genuinely impressive. These systems range from motorized rotating brushes that travel across the panel surface on a fixed track to fully autonomous robots that navigate the array on their own schedule with no input from you at all. Some models use dry brushing. Others use a combination of gentle water misting and microfiber contact. The more advanced units have onboard sensors that detect soiling levels and decide when to clean without being told. Because of the cost and the professional installation involved, these solutions are usually reserved for large commercial arrays, a rooftop system on a warehouse, a ground-mounted farm in the desert, a utility-scale installation where even a 1% efficiency loss translates into thousands of dollars a month. At that scale, a cleaning robot pays for itself remarkably fast. But if budget genuinely isn't a concern for your residential setup, and you want the absolute best outcome, robotic systems offer the most consistent results. They keep the panels so clean that grime never accumulates enough to trigger hotspots in the first place. And hotspots are worth understanding. When one section of a panel gets significantly dirtier than the rest, it generates less current. But because it's wired in series with the cleaner cells, the whole string has to match down to its weakest point. It's like a chain with a weak link. The dirty patch doesn't just hurt itself, it drags down the output of every cell connected to it. Robotic cleaning eliminates that problem entirely by never letting any section fall behind. The fourth option, if you'd rather not do any of this yourself, is to simply hire it out, and there's no shame in that. As solar has become more common, so have specialist cleaning services. Many now offer seasonal maintenance plans that are genuinely well priced. A professional team will typically do a full inspection alongside the clean. They'll check your junction boxes, look for microcracks, test your connections, and flag anything that needs attention before it becomes expensive. That combination of cleaning and inspection is something that's genuinely hard to replicate on your own. And many homeowners find that the energy recovered more than covers the cost of the service. So in that sense, it effectively pays for itself. Whichever route you choose, the right cleaning frequency comes down to where you live. If you're in a temperate, rainy climate, a thorough clean once or twice a year is the industry standard. The rain does a reasonable job of surface rinsing between scheduled cleans. It won't remove bonded grime or mineral deposits on its own, but it does slow the accumulation significantly. If you're in an arid or dusty environment, you'll likely need to step that up to quarterly. Desert regions, agricultural areas, anywhere near construction activity or heavy road traffic. These environments deposit particulate matter at a rate that a twice-yearly clean simply can't keep up with. Quarterly cleaning in those conditions isn't overcautious. It's just the minimum required to keep your system anywhere near its rated efficiency. And now let's talk about what that actually means in numbers. Studies across multiple climates and installation types consistently show the same result. A dirty solar array underperforms a clean one by anywhere between 5 and 25% depending on conditions. Think about that for a moment. If your system is rated to produce 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, you could be getting as little as 750. 250 kilowatt hours a month that you paid for, that you financed, that you're paying interest on, just sitting on the table because of a layer of dust you could remove in 30 minutes. Over the course of a year, that's 3,000 kilowatt hours. Over the 25-year life of a typical panel installation, the number becomes genuinely significant. This is the silent inefficiency that nobody warns you about when they're selling you the system. So here's where that leaves you. The solar array on your roof was a real shift in how you power your life. A decision to capture clean energy straight from the sky instead of being tied to a grid that only ever seems to get more expensive. But the part nobody tells you is that an expensive high-tech piece of kit like this isn't fit and forget. It's a system. And a system performs in direct proportion to how well it's maintained. The homeowners who get the most out of solar aren't the ones with the biggest arrays. They're the ones who understood this one simple thing. You can accept the slow, invisible decline and leave 5 to 25% of your power sitting on the table year after year, while your payback date drifts further and further away. Or you can pick up a pole, spend half an hour, and take it back. The choice really is that simple. And it makes you wonder what else around your home is quietly running at 80%, waiting on one overlooked job. Building a more efficient future doesn't always mean spending thousands on new technology. Sometimes it just means having the discipline to clean what you already own. If that's the kind of thinking that resonates with you, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if the idea of using natural systems to make your home more efficient caught your attention, you need to watch our deep dive into passive cooling. And if the idea of using natural systems to make your home more efficient caught your attention, you need to watch our deep dive into passive cooling. our brilliantly low tech way to keep your home cool and dry without ever climbing a ladder. The link's on screen right now. I'll see you over there.